Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are putting on our headlamps, you could say, and plunging into the world of extreme endurance. We're looking specifically at the singular achievement of ultra-running legend Ruth Croft, who conquered the Ultra Trail du Mont Blanc, the UTMB. When we look at an athlete who voluntarily runs 174 kilometers, that's, 108 grueling miles around the Mont Blanc Massif, we're not just analyzing physical conditioning. It's more than that.
Oh, definitely. You're diving deep into philosophy, into mindset.
Exactly. So our mission today is to extract the core insights from her life, her career, really understand how her uniquely tough New Zealand upbringing forged the psychological engine required for that kind of global dominance.
And dominance is the right word. For anyone maybe not familiar with the scale here, UTMB is the event in ultra running. It's huge.
Right. It goes through France, Italy, Switzerland.
Yeah, and just finishing is a career highlight for most elite athletes. But Ruth Croft, she didn't just win the main event. She actually made history.
Absolutely. The sources confirm she's the first woman ever to claim the UTMB World Series Triple Crown.
Which is just incredible.
So we're talking winning the OCC, which is 55K, the CCC 100K, and then the UTMB itself, the 174K, over her career, obviously.
And what's really crucial to get about the Triple Crown is it demands this comprehensive mastery. It's not like just being good at one distance.
Right.
The OCC is fast, it's intense, needs speed, high turnover. UTMB, on the other hand, it's a slow burn, almost a survival slog.
Totally different challenges.
Completely. So mastering all three means she can switch her entire metabolic approach, her mental game. That really speaks volumes about her versatility.
Okay, let's unpack this then.
Yeah.
Because that kind of toughness, that versatility,
Yeah.
it doesn't just appear, right?
Right.
We have to start where she started.
Yeah.
Stillwater, New Zealand. The sources mentioned the population there is like 86 people. 86.
No.
That environment has got to be central here.
It absolutely is. She grew up just completely immersed in the rugged West Coast culture. South Island. It's a 600-kilometer stretch defined by isolation, demanding terrain.
And her family ran a transport company, right? That was kind of her training ground.
Exactly. And when you look at the stories about her childhood work, it wasn't light stuff.
No kidding. She talks about working full-time during school holidays, pulling 14-hour days, doing what she called shitty jobs.
Yeah, like cleaning drains, the grease bay. Not glamorous.
Not at all. And she saw her whole family, father, mother, brother, working sunrise to sunset in the office too. It wasn't about leisure time. It was
survival, business maintenance, just what you did. That kind of physical labor, especially the sustained, gritty kind, it instills a pretty unique definition of accomplishment.
And what's fascinating, and she connected this directly in the material we looked at, is that she loved endurance sports because they felt like that physical labor. Running wasn't an escape from work for her. It was like a continuation of it, giving her that same sort of tangible, exhausting feeling of having achieved something real.
Yeah, and if you connect that to the wider regional culture, the West Coast has only about 34,000 full-time residents. It's deeply resourceful, miles from the nearest city, always dealing with, like, torrential rain and challenging weather.
Right.
The overriding local philosophy, the reports confirm this, is just, we just get on with it. Simple as that. There's no room for self-pity, no exaggerating how hard things are. You just do it.
So, okay, we've got this foundation.
Yeah.
Absolute grit, radical humility, the ingrained resilience.
Yeah.
That's exactly what she needed when the UTMB got really tough.
Yeah.
Let's pivot to the race itself.
Let's do it.
Because the story of her victory, especially against that field, it's become legendary.
It really has. She came back to UTMB aiming for the win after placing second the year before. But the big story, the headline, was Courtney Dauwalter.
The American runner, yeah.
Who came into the race having not lost a 100-mile race in 8 years. 8 years. That's a massive psychological hurdle right there, racing someone who seems invincible.
So they set off fast, running together for the first 30 kilometers or so.
Neck and neck.
But ultra running, it's always a story of ups and downs, isn't it?
Yeah.
As they went through the night, Dauwalter started to pull away.
Yeah, she built up a pretty significant lead, about 11 minutes. And Croft actually fell back. She was in third place for a while.
Right. Moving in the wrong direction against this dominant competitor. That's got to be tough mentally.
Oh, absolutely. And this is where that West Coast get-on-with-it ethos really kicks in, you know?
How so?
Well, think about it. You're 100 kilometers in, running through the Alps in the dark. You know the untouchable leader is 11 minutes ahead. The natural response for almost anyone would be, okay, conserve energy, settle for second, maybe third.
Protect the podium spot.
Exactly. But that's not what happened. The surge came right as the sun was rising, around that 100-kilometer mark.
And it's hard to really overstate the commitment required to actively accelerate that deep into a race like this.
It's brutal. She executed this incredible push, turning an 11-minute deficit into a decisive lead. She ended up winning by 32 minutes.
32 minutes. Wow.
Yeah. The sources described that surge as the moment she just fully committed, emptied the tank, pulled from that deep reserve of just getting on with it. It wasn't adrenaline. It was sustained, programmed discomfort to overtake the field.
That kind of massive win, normally you'd expect, I don't know, a huge social media splash, media tours.
Right, the whole machine.
But our sources consistently call Ruth Croft an enigma because she just avoids the spotlight, almost aggressively humble.
Which raises this really interesting paradox, doesn't it? Is that humility just a natural cultural thing from the West Coast, or is it also like a deliberate psychological tool she uses to maintain her performance?
Good question. She did say herself that not self-promoting is a West Coast thing. You never toot your own horn. So it seems deeply ingrained.
It definitely seems like a cultural resistance to ego.
And she almost weaponizes that humility, using it to keep the sport in perspective. Her defining quote, the one that really sums up her approach to fame and success, is so key.
Which one is that?
I like to remind myself that it's just running. It's not like I'm curing cancer.
Right. And that low-stakes attitude, paradoxically, it seems to allow for incredibly high-stakes performance. It lets her step away from social media, keep her identity separate from her results.
But that separate identity, that balance, it wasn't always there, was it? Let's spend a moment on her early struggles, because that perspective was hard-won.
Yeah, definitely not an easy path. Early on, she was this huge success story. National champion in secondary school and, like, everything, cross-country, mountain running, steeplechase.
The dominant junior.
Totally. But maybe success came a bit too early, too easily. Then the reality check hit at the World Championships. She went from being the star to placing second to last in her heat.
Ouch.
Yeah. That realization, big fish in a small pond, that was the first real crack in how she saw herself.
And that crack apparently widened when she got a scholarship to the University of Portland in the U.S. The material describes a really tough time, injuries, and eating disorder. It sounds like college wasn't just about athletics, it was a painful identity crisis.
It really sounds like a reckoning. She looked at her life and saw how tightly her self-worth was fused with her running results, and it was becoming toxic.
She said something like, who I was as a person revolved around running.
Exactly. And when the running faltered because of injuries, she became, in her words, unbalanced and unhappy. She even looked back and realized she was shitty to be around.
Oh, that's incredibly self-aware.
It is. And that insight, realizing her success, was actually making her a worse person that forced a fundamental change.
Which is a huge lesson, I think, for any high achiever listening. Success without that internal balance can actually be destructive.
For sure.
So the solution she came up with is pretty clever. Treating her life in seasons, clearly separating her identity from her job, essentially.
Yeah, it's very structured. Summer in Europe is all business. From January right through the summer races, every single decision is laser-focused on optimizing running performance. Total dedication.
But, and this seems just as crucial, the winter is different. She goes back to New Zealand specifically to restock and reset.
Right. And running is consciously put to the side. This structure seems to be what keeps her motivated for the long haul, focused on long-term goals. It lets her identity be defined by home, by relationships, not just podiums.
That makes sense. It stops the running from consuming everything.
And she even mentioned her motivation during UTMB, saying if she hadn't won, she would have just been even more motivated to come back next year. Her drive is internal. It's about getting the most out of myself, not necessarily the win itself.
Okay, so if the UTMB win doesn't redefine her happiness because she's deliberately uncoupled those things, what does a historic victory like that actually mean to someone with this mindset? Does that humility ever risk becoming a barrier? Like making it harder to acknowledge the huge effort needed for the next training block?
Interesting point. But I think her philosophy actually protects her there. She said, winning UTMB won't change how I'll move through the world. Because she did the work beforehand, she knows her value isn't tied to that specific result.
If you know who you are, external stuff won't dictate your internal happiness. That was her quote, right?
Exactly. And maybe that lack of needing fanfare keeps her hungry, you know? She doesn't need the validation to fuel the next effort.
She doesn't see the win as pointless, though. She framed it more as A vehicle.
Yeah, a vehicle to bring people together. It's
Yeah.
about an outward-facing purpose, not boosting her own ego.
And you saw that connection immediately back home, didn't you? That West Coast network she comes from.
Oh, absolutely. It's described as incredibly tight-knit, very supportive. Her success became their success.
Her dad was crying at the finish line.
Yeah, visibly emotional. Her brother Hamish got choked up calling her. And the report said people back on the coast were just fizzing off it, just buzzing.
That's the payoff, then, for the community that instilled that toughness in the first place. Her incredible, historic win becomes this shared celebration.
It proves that her really humble approach doesn't mean isolation. It actually fosters this deep network of support and belonging, which she clearly values way more than any individual fame.
So the core lesson we can take from this Ruth Croft deep dive seems pretty profound. Achieving that absolute peak of human endurance, it takes more than just genetics and brutal training. It requires successfully dealing with your own identity.
Yeah, it really does.
World-class performance often seems to stem from that childhood grit, sure, but also this cultivated commitment to defining your happiness completely separately from your athletic results.
And that identity maintenance, you could argue, is maybe the ultimate competitive advantage for her. You know, we highlighted her extreme dedication, 6 months, all business, running is everything. Then this complete seasonal reset where running is explicitly put to the side back home.
Right, that clear separation.
So it really makes you think. Considering her earlier struggles in college with that identity fusion, with imbalance, how essential is that defined non-negotiable reset period, where she completely steps away? How critical is that for maintaining both her happiness and her long-term consistency in hitting these huge ultra-endurance goals?
Is the total switch off the key to the whole thing?
Maybe. Definitely something for you to mull over or perhaps explore on your own.